John Locke, 1632-1704 by Rachel Miller. So, John Locke is one of the giants on the list of things for us to study and on this education class. And when I think of John Locke, I don't really think education. I think, this man that helped with, these ideas that helped found the Constitution and, was really a part of, the philosophies of the founding fathers. But I feel like he was a really genuine man and kind of down to earth in the things that he was saying. And so to begin, he was born in 1632 in Somerset, England, and he was born into kind of a well-off family. So his father was a lawyer, and from there he was able to have a really good start to life. So because of his situation and his family situation, he was able to be in the best schools, and then but it was him that got, that made it possible for him to get a spot in Christ Church and to get the education that he did, just because he was just that smart. He got fellowships, and it was really great in his studies and everything like that. So to continue, he obtained a Master's of Arts and a Bachelor's of Medicine, which I didn't really expect from a philosopher to kind of, have such kind of grounded things like medicine. That's very scientific. That's very, this is this, this is that. Not very, there's not much philosophy to that. But it's kind of a good play and a kind of a stepping stone to what he becomes later on. So during his medical study, he met Lord Ashley, who is to become the first Earl of Shaftesbury. And that connection is definitely what sets him forward in his life. Lord Ashley, when he becomes Earl, he wants Locke to become his personal physician. And through that connection, like I said, he becomes, even more than he was, and definitely gets more aspects pull into his philosophies from that, and he becomes a key member of the Whig Party. So Earl of Shaftesbury is, like I said, Lord Ashley, and he is a founder of the Whig Party. And the Whig Party was a part of, the English Parliament, and was put into because it wanted a more constitutional government. It wanted more of a constitutional monarchism, which is what the Constitution is what puts limits on a government. And his friendship with, some say Lord Ashley's patronage, I should say Earl, patronage to John Locke was really, it stuck with him forever. Like, you could definitely see the aspects of the Whig Party and, those situations and the politics that came and the things that surrounded him throughout his life definitely pull into his philosophies and theories, especially a lot of the things that he published in his writings were political and definitely more for the natural rights of the people and kind of the social contract between, people and the government. So, why is he a giant? Why are we studying him in this education class? Well, I learned to really like him. I always kind of thought of him as this abstract, kind of like, I don't know, just up in the air kind of a guy, but he's not. He's really, I feel like he's really grounded, and reading some of his works, it was really interesting to see. But as we read in the textbook, he's a proponent of realism, and the examples that they give, for why he's a realist is no such thing as innate ideas. So it's more of like, you come into this earth, and it's a few points below with a tabula rasa, blank sheet, blank, just blank. You don't come here with any innate ideas, but you are here to learn. You use your senses, you use reflection to kind of build upon, the things that you observe, and observation is very important to John Locke. And so, and then another point is that he was a true empiricist. So Bacon, another realist that was mentioned in the textbook, was said to be, the father of empiricism. But a lot of people say it's John Locke. John Locke was definitely full, like, all of him was for it, and all of him was, for these things and for these ideas. And so he, through these ideas, and definitely for religious freedom and natural rights, was definitely one of the things that pushed the colonists and everything for the Constitution and for separation from England and all these different things was definitely, he definitely had a huge role in the ideals of our founding fathers. And then the last point that I have, which I feel like is the most towards education that I found, an essay concerning human understanding. So human understanding, this is kind of where it becomes a little abstract, but it still stays rather simple. It's different to read things from, back in, the 1500, like, the 15th century and 16th century and the 18th century and things like that. But, I was able to understand, and it talked about how simple, we aren't very complex beings, but through these simple things that we observe, we put them together for complex ideas, and that's kind of one of the things it talks about. And there's four books, an essay concerning human understanding, and he also talks about the limits of human understanding, and that people would kind of become skeptics because they kind of look too far and try and grasp at these things that they can't reach, and so that's when they become skeptics and like, oh, that's not right, and I don't think this is possible, and just because they can't understand it, and it's kind of incomprehensible. And so he talks about how we need to learn and reflect and understand what our limits are, and to kind of reach those limits and make sure that we kind of don't become those skeptics because we search beyond those limits. And so I feel like that really applies to education because, we have kids and we are teaching these ideas, or I guess I will have kids because I'm going to teach in junior high, and I just really want them to kind of get those foundations done, being able to kind of pull in those simple things, and over time build these complex ideas. Like junior high, I don't really expect to have these profound lessons each day on history. I want them to have, these basics and kind of pull these ideas together and be able to kind of form this picture, as they go along. And so I really think, those things that he put forth in an essay of human understanding is really applicable to education. And so yesterday's play into today. So today, it's kind of hard to see how philosophers, sometimes, have direct effects in our lives. But he definitely did, like our religious freedom as being members of the church, his influence and his progress and his, little, well, not really little, but his part in, the change and feelings of the people of England and, the colonies coming about, and, the ideas put forth of religious freedom and liberty definitely helped to where we could establish a constitution and, the First Amendment, and also the restoration of the church. And then, like I said, the limits on human understanding, like I really like, some of the ideas that he put forth, like honestly, we really can't, get the big picture right away. Like, we can't just take this huge chunk and, like, get it, but it's more of like, you have this piece here, you have this piece here, it's like putting together a puzzle is kind of how I interpret it, and that's, a good way of approaching teaching. And so that's how I'm going to apply this, in my life and in my teaching in my future. And so I want you to think about, how those ideas can have affected you, and how you think it will affect your theories and your teaching in the future. So that's the presentation on John Locke.